Well, you know, the Benghazi terrorist attack was the focus of congressional hearings this past week, with more possibly to come. So now for a look beyond the Benghazi news, here's Liz Trotta's Sunday commentary.
In considering testimony in the Benghazi hearing last week, few virtues emerge. Except for the courage of the whistleblowers, their harrowing accounts provide the framework for a chapter in American history riddled with selfishness, vindictiveness, mendacity, shamelessness, and fear. Men and women who would do and did anything to save their skins and their careers. Those who gambled and those who lost their lives on 9/11 of last year have not been honored by what increasingly appears to be a labyrinth of lies to shield Obama and Hillary. It's particularly sickening to hear how Mrs. Clinton's flying squad of devoted warriors in the State Department strong-armed and dressed down any colleague who would dare raise questions about her actions. Deceit after deceit after Ambassador Stevens and 3 more Americans died, believing their country would never let them down. We heard a lot of talking about the talking points so far, but what of our far-flung military commitment, the greatest fighting machine in the world? How could that force repeatedly stand down in what was clearly an attack by our enemies? Only the president, as commander-in-chief, can give that order. Did he? Or was Hillary substituting that night, having gotten the famous 3 a.m. phone call? I can't resist quoting Napoleon here, who was only an hour off when he said, quote, "As to moral courage, I have rarely met with 2 o'clock in the morning courage. I mean instantaneous courage." The 2 U.S. officials who oversaw an internal review of the attacks were invited to the House committee hearing, but declined to attend. Former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mike Mullen, and former Ambassador Tom Pickering. In defense of the whitewash report that avoided any indictment of State Department top brass, Pickering said, quote, "Our marching orders were to get to the bottom of what happened, and that's what we did." He is also quoted as saying that the whole investigation was tantamount to Pulitzer Prize level fiction. So much for impartiality. As for Mr. Mullen, a retired general, he's just one more of the failed architects of our wayward military policy in the Middle East, the Navy complement to the fallen David Petraeus. Will someone please explain how we were left naked in the face of terror? Former Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta practically turned himself into a pretzel in making excuses for the stand down. The current chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Martin Dempsey, joined the fog of no war in Benghazi from the start. Senator John McCain described the general's testimony to a Senate committee last February as the most bizarre he had ever heard. We got a clear picture of our military impotence at the hearings. Benghazi was too far for any of our airplanes to arrive in time. There was no refueling capacity for the aircraft. Fighters flying low passes wouldn't have made any difference, etc., etc. One can only imagine what the special forces, reduced to only 4 men because of security cuts, must have been thinking when their mission to Benghazi was aborted as they headed for the airport. Where were the SEALs, or the Delta Force, or any defender in our vast arsenal of military power that night? Avoidance was the byword, and it had to have come from the top. This story is alive. Already there are calls for a special bipartisan committee, demands to question General Dempsey, a campaign to subpoena Hillary. The Obama-Clinton matrix of Democrats who want to keep their jobs or get better ones will not go down easily. The White House will continue to insist this is all about politics and nothing else. The question is how they clear up the blood already in the water.